I'd like to call to order the Frankfurt Plant Board meeting on Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. This meeting is done by means of Zoom video conference. And with that, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member Hale?
Here.
Member Cubine?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum. First item of business, item 1, is consider approving the minutes for the July 20th, 2021 board meeting. If everybody's had a chance to review them, are there any changes, corrections anybody needs to make? Hearing none. All those, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Did you get it, Kathy?
I got 2 motions, but
I'll second it. I'll second Kathy's motion.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 2, consider accepting the financial reports for the month ending June 30th, 2021 and the month ending July 31st, 2021. And also, Mr. Dent's going to give us an update on the audit status. Mr. Dent?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Cubine. I'll go ahead and start with the audit update. Frankfurt Plant Board by statute is required to get an annual audit from an external accounting firm. The board of directors at the plant board has retained Blue & Company for the fiscal year 2021 audit. We've had the auditors doing year-end field work the last 2 weeks. Things have gone very well. We expect to have the audit report presented to the board at the October board meeting. But it's been a good transition from our prior auditor to Blue & Company, and we're pleased with how it's going. So we'll have that to you all, and we'll cover the year again in October. Right now, I'd like to give you just a summary of the unaudited financials for the year ending June 30, 2021. So the plant board has a fiscal year end that ends June 30. So looking at the year, if you recall, we started the year about 3.5 months before the year started. We had the world changed with COVID-19, a lot of questions as we moved into a new fiscal year, what the year would look like, really from a revenue perspective. As we projected out, how does the change in economic activity affect the Frankfurt Plant Board and our finances? Pleased to report that overall things worked out pretty well for the year considering all the uncertainty. I'd like to start for a minute, if we could, on page 23 of the board packet and just look at the statement of net position for the Frankfurt Plant Board as of June 30th, 2021. So this is how the company looked, our balance sheet on the last day of the year. You can see that line 65, this first column, that the plant board had just over $202 million in assets as of June 30th. The largest single asset class of the Frankfurt Plant Board is our property, plant, and equipment. That composes 59% of our total assets at $118.5 million. You can see, looking at the variance from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 20, some of the biggest changes we see is the changes in and out of cash and investments. Those are some movements in and out there. And also one that we like to see is on line 45, an increase of $3 million on our property, plant, and equipment. That's a good sign. That means that our investment in our plant is outpacing our annual depreciation, which is a good thing. Investing back in our plant to make sure it's up to date and operating to deliver the services that our customers need and the reliability that they expect. So looking down at line 130, our liabilities for the period, just over $97 million. You can see that's up $4.9 million from a year ago. Most of that change is an increase in our net pension and other pension liability expense. The Frankfurt Plant Board is a member of the Kentucky Retirement System's County Employment Retirement System. So any unfunded liability that is in that system, the plant board has to book our proportionate share. So we had an increase when you net the increase in the deferred outflow of the pension and the deferred inflow. We had an increase about $4.7 million that the plant board had to book and run through our income statement for the year. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into our covering the financial performance of the company. So when you take your assets less your liabilities, you have your net position, or what a for-profit company would call equity of the company. You can see on line 160, just right at $105 million in net position as of June 30th. That's an increase of $8.1 million, which is exactly the amount of the increase in net contribution that the company saw for the year. So overall, liabilities and net position equal our assets at just a little over $202 million for the period. I'd be glad to discuss any questions on the statement of net position as of June 30th. If not, I'd like to move over to page 25, look briefly at our bonds, leases, and loans payable as of June 30th, 2021. You can see we started out the year just over $31.6 million, paid down $4 million in debt reduction, ending the year at $27.6 million as of June 30th. That number is something to keep in mind as we move on and look at July financials here in a few moments, as we had a significant pay down in debt in July. So that's a little summary of where we are in the long-term debt. I'd like to also briefly hit the financial performance of the company for the year, looking at page 28. This is our statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position. That is similar to what a for-profit company would call an income statement. If you look at our total operating revenue for the year ending June 30th, 21, you can see we had revenue of, with all three lines of business, electric, water, and our cable and our telecommunications, of $98.7 million. When you look at the composition of that revenue, we were down in our electric and water revenue. We have not had a change in our electric rate since July of 2017 and haven't had a change in our water rates since August of 2018. So any changes in revenue in electric and water divisions is related to our customer usage. So the changes that we see year over year have been a change in customer usage, with usage down on both of those divisions. Telecom, happy to report that we were up $876,000 gross revenue for the year, and that's been led primarily by a $1.2 million increase in internet sales for the period. I think we had an increase of 573 internet customers during the year. We transitioned, and the world transitioned from working in the office, moving to a work from home situation. So we had a lot of customers that were reaching out to us to increase speeds. So we had incremental increases in revenue from speed changes of our existing customers. Also a lot of new customers taking our service as they move to a work from home strategy. So that was beneficial to the company as we move throughout the year. If you look at the total operating and general and admin expenses for the year, we actually had a decrease of 0.2% from a prior year. So if we have holding steady and doing all right with revenue, and we had an actual decrease in operating expenses for the period, you can see up there on line 360, we had a net contribution of just over $8.1 million for the year. I mentioned earlier the unfunded liability adjustment. We have to run, if we're going to increase the liability, then we have to run the offsetting entry through our income statement. So our net pension expense increased $4.7 million due to that unfunded liability adjustment. Had we not had that adjustment, we would have been definitely above our budgeted net contribution for the year. But overall, that is a non-cash entry. And overall, considering how we walked into the year, very pleased with the way things turned out. We also have all of our regular financials, check register, and all of our activity for all bank accounts for the company for that fiscal year. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have on how we finished fiscal year 21.
I think it'd be nice, David, just to point out one thing you said early on, is our electric rates are the same as they were in 2016. So our rates are the same for electric as they were in 2016, and water's the same as 18, right?
Yeah, July 17 on electric and August of 18 on water. Yes, sir. Yeah. So any changes there were completely usage driven.
Yeah.
So pleased how that is. And once again, we'll come back and cover this fiscal year as we go over the audit with our external auditor, Blue & Company, in October. Briefly, I'd like to hit and look at financials for our first month of fiscal year 20.
David, before you do it, let me just ask, does anybody have any questions of David for the year ending June 30, 2021, before he goes into the first month of the new year. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, David. I just wanted to see if we had any questions on the year. So go on.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'll be very brief with this 1 month. This is July 2021, first month of our new fiscal year 22. Biggest thing I'd like to point out, you'll see on page 97, that's our net statement of net position as of July 31st. We had a significant decrease in our long-term debt. The plant board paid down $18.4 million in debt during July. That was paying off or defeasing our Series 2015 A bonds that were used to construct this administration building. And we paid off 2 KIA notes that were used for significant water division capital improvements over the years. So that was a significant reduction in our balance sheet and also reduction in cash to pay those down. Financial performance wise for the first month of the year, we look a lot like we did in July of 2020. So that's the largest change in July was that debt pay down, and I'd be glad to answer any questions on how we're starting the year out or anything else you'd like to discuss financially.
One thing I might ask Dave, with those notes, of course, with our notes paid off, the ones we paid off, how much does our debt payments go down this year compared to last year, operating dollars wise?
You know, when you look at the amount of principal that we had to pay off, it is about $2 million a year that we save by paying those off. So
Okay.
that money will be used to reinvest back into the plant with
Right.
the significant amount of capital investment we have planned with capital projects.
Right. Does anybody have any questions of David for July of 2021?
I have just a general question on the check register. It's probably a stupid question. I should already know, I guess. But what are all the refunds checks? Are those overpayments by customers?
So usually, whenever a customer closes their account, whether they are transferring to a new usually whenever they close their account, whether they're moving to a new town or whatever the circumstances, we will give them a refund of anything outstanding on their account and a refund of their deposit. So that's
Okay.
usually a refund of customer deposits is what you're seeing on those.
Okay.
When the money goes in, David, when someone opens up a new account and they have to put a deposit on, is that money just put in the general operating?
We do deposit it in our general checking account, but it is booked on our financials as a liability. Customer
Okay.
deposits so we track that and keep it as a liability because we will have to pay that back out when the customer leaves in service. We also are required to pay interest on those deposits that is set each January, and PSC informs us of that rate each January.
Okay.
And Mr. Mason, since you were down there watching that house get moved from 1 Corinthians, I know for instance, the Franklin County Trust for Historic Preservation had to pay up front.
Mhm.
And they, of course, had to estimate how much that move would cost. And then afterwards, it was recalculated and there was a refund done.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That is a good point, Ms. Dutton Mitchell. Appreciate. Yeah, we will too. Contractors that might do some upfront payments with us for work that 2 people performed, contractors, there'll be a refund on those jobs as well. So, absolutely.
Thanks.
Any other questions for David? If not, do I have a motion to accept the June 30th, 2021 financials and the month ending July 31st, 2021 financials?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials accepted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Poe, I think you said we don't have anybody signed up for public comment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
were we gonna have David talk about, overdue debt, bad debt?
You want to go and ask him some questions now?
Yeah.
Sure.
That was on the agenda at this time, so I didn't know if we wanted to talk about it now or later.
Sure, Mr. Snyder, I'd be glad to discuss, as we talked about, starting the new fiscal year and all the uncertainty. The plant board, whenever we started the economic shutdowns and office closures in the mid-March, the plant board voluntarily suspended service disconnections at that time. And then the governor came out and an executive order and required utilities to suspend disconnections. So during that time, the plant board did see a much elevated past due balance amount. When you look at when the plant board started to a 2-cycle billing system in May of 2017, between May 17 and March of 2020, we had averaged around $780,000 in past due debt that we would roll month to month, whether customers are behind and trying to get caught up. That $780,000 was our average. We did see over the COVID period, our peak past due balance hit in October of 2020 at just over 3.2 million. Since that time, we did resume disconnections, and we have received a lot of economic assistance out there. We're now currently, as of the end of July, at just over $1.75 million. So we are down quite a bit, about $500,000 from our high. In our customer service report, we're going to give some updates on economic assistance we received, but I can go ahead and give a little discussion about that. I know from our Kentucky Healthy at Home Eviction Relief Fund, April will give us the exact number, but I think it's close to $250,000 we've received from that economic assistance plan. So the plant board's definitely benefited from things like that. So we are still working through those. Payment arrangements have come down significantly, but we are just above 1.7 million in past dues. Hopefully we can get back to our historical average down the road here.
I assume, David, it's fair to say that the past due amount kind of falls in two categories. It's either people who are past due but have an active payment plan, or it's people who are past due and they no longer have a service from us, and that may or may not ever be recovered depending on if they ever reestablish service, right?
You're right. We will have, on that second point, a customer that has ended service and has an outstanding balance, we will hold that on the books for 90 days. So after 90 days, we'll write it off and consider it bad debt. But so there will be a portion of customers that have not paid us, ended service, and are still in that 0 to 90 day past due on top of the payment arrangement customers. So, yes, sir.
But then if I come back in and say it's been 6 months and I want to reopen service and I still have a past due, is that amount still on my account then?
Yes, sir. It's still on your account, and we will ask and require the customer to pay that amount. But we are working with customers as they come back in to establish payment arrangements and get back up, get up and going. So that amount does definitely get brought back in, and we do request that amount be paid up. It's not just written off and forgotten.
Okay. Any other questions, David, about that? Okay. If not, information items, departmental reports. Mr. Foster, are you the master of ceremonies?
Yes, sir. We'll have our different guys go ahead and give it to you. Scott Hudson's having some technical difficulties getting on, so I'll give the electric report. But Adam, would you like to go ahead and give the telecom and next band update, please?
Sure. The standard reports in the board package, trouble calls are down a little bit this month versus last year the same time. We had a few more outages in July from the storms, and we had some power surges and a lot of blown fuses. But other than that, pretty average report. Update on next band. The construction crews are in Node 11, which is Senate Drive, Lions Drive area. They're working and, doing all the overhead work there. We still have underground crews in Node 14 over there by Mr. Mason. We've hit quite a bit of rock, which is slowing those guys down. But we're hoping to finish that up in the next couple of weeks, and then we can get in there and start testing. We're still continuing to do friendly installs and working with manufacturers on equipment lead time. The board approved a bid back in, I think it was November, and it was a large quantity of field equipment. And happy to say most of that has came in but one item, and hopefully sometime in September that'll be here, and that'll kind of relieve the construction portion as far as material goes. So that's some pretty good information. So that's all I have. Go ahead.
If you hit any rock over by Steve's house, you can blast. He's okay with that.
Yeah, just knock my house down, please.
But no, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, that's kind of been, that was our first area of underground with the contractor. So we knew it was going to be kind of slow, but we had a couple of little issues here and there, but hopefully we can wrap that up and get into some better soil. So,
Have we actually turned on any people for testing yet?
yes, there's probably at least 10 now. We have 4 more that we're getting ready to turn on out in the Shadrick Ferry area. So we'll get those this week, if not next week. That being a new area, there's some drops that are really long, and instead of hanging them typically off wedge clamps, we've decided to actually lash them. That way, if there is an ice event, hopefully it'll support the weight. So some of those are handled a little bit different than we would typically in the city or more urban areas. So we're hoping to get those 4 turned on. I think we have at least 3 out there now up and working, and they seem to really like the product considering they've been waiting quite a while.
Okay. Any questions for Adam on that? Vint, next one.
Okay, I'll jump down and do the electric departmental report. That's on pages 189 to 192 of your board package. And again, our SAIDI number is 32.26. Again, usually the national average is quite a bit above 90. So that, as always, is a pretty good number. The largest reasons for most of our calls on this one has been lightning and birds, as you can see. And we had 66 outages for the month. Also, we'll go ahead and give the SEPA report if you're fine with that, and then I'll let Travis give an AMI update, and that will kind of sum up electric altogether. So your SEPA report is 193 through 195. If you notice, we cleared 390,000 for June. So for the calendar year, that puts us at 768,000. And so that's ahead of what we were thinking from a budgetary standpoint. Again, of course, we're budgeting on a fiscal year, but we estimate over the next couple of fiscal years about 829. So we're doing quite well. And so we will, looks like, come out ahead on that. So that would be the SEPA report. I'll be happy to answer any questions on the electric or SEPA. And if you don't have any, I'll let Travis jump in on the AMI update for you.
Any questions for Vint? And now, Travis, you want to update us on the AMI?
Sure, we're making progress slowly but surely on AMI. The vendor has a warehouse up and running here in Frankfurt, so that was a big milestone to get us a little closer to deployment. Material issues are still popping up here and there, but we've made some progress, and we feel like we've got a pretty good feel for how the next few months are going to play out. So here over the next few weeks, we'll probably begin actual full system-wide deployment. So hopefully we have a good solid update at the September meeting.
Any questions of Travis? Any sign, Travis or Vint, all the backups in equipment or Adam, and and all the stuff on chips and everything else, do you all see that loosening up any, or is it still just as was? I mean, I keep hearing in the automotive side, they keep saying, maybe September, October, but is it easing up any, or?
What we had some people at a show last week, and what we've discovered is they're already asking us for orders for the next 12 months in the future. So there's still quite a bit of product, and I might have misspoke earlier. We're getting some outside plant materials, but still on the consumer side, what goes in the houses, we're still seeing significant delays. And I mean, we have some product that we can't even get lead times on. So hopefully it does get better, because, it's going to impact our daily operations, especially with next band. So we're trying to work with them and do the best we can, and, look at other products and things of that nature as well.
Okay.
Travis, what about your meter deliveries, et cetera, that you've been dealing with?
Yeah, they're still behind. They're coming in slower than we would like, but we've got a little more clear picture, at least, of what it's going to look like. In the beginning, it was, we don't have anything and we don't know when we are. Now we're kind of at least at a point where we know lead times are long, but we at least have some firm dates that we can work with. So a little better planning. I think we're in better shape, but still dealing with some issues.
Yeah, and then if you, Leanne could jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from what I'm hearing is for vehicles, large trucks, we're still looking at close to 2 years now out. So we have to order almost 2 years ahead of time. So that hasn't corrected itself yet.
So will that change our delivery? So trucks that we had budgeted that we had assumed would be delivered this year, likely we're probably not going to see them?
I believe that's correct. Leanne, am I correct in that, or am I off on that? I was talking to the garage the other day, and that's what they were telling me was we were looking at close to a 2-year delay.
So we'll just put more miles on the trucks we have.
Yes, we'll have to.
Yeah.
We may have to come back to the board depending on how that works out, and when we get some exact dates, we may have to actually come and place orders a year and a half or so ahead of time into another budget year that you technically aren't in. But we would, if we do that, we'll come to the board on that, of course.
Okay.
Then I'm sorry, I just now got in, but yes, that is correct. On the larger trucks, it could be up to 2 years.
So,
Miss, if you're okay with that, if the board has any more questions on that, we'll be happy to answer that. If not, we can do the water reports as well.
Okay. Is everybody okay to go on to water? Okay, why don't you go on, Vin? Or
Brian, do you want to do the water report? I also had Julie Roney will do water treatment, and then David Billings will give you an update on reservoir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The water distribution's monthly report is on pages 199 to 201. We installed 5 new services. We had 5 main breaks, and we had 2 outages. The 2nd Street Tiger Grant, all tie-ins are complete. We have 1 fire hydrant left to install. So we'll probably get to that in a couple weeks. Once a contractor gets out of our way, we'll get that installed. Our annual flushing, we're about 50% complete on it, and our construction crews have started on sludge removal at the water treatment plant. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
okay, Julie.
All right. For July, we had a very similar month as compared to June. We treated roughly 238 million gallons of water. We averaged about 7.7 million gallons per day. The flow in the river was pretty significant, almost 4 billion gallons of water a day passing the intake. But as the month went on, the river flows declined pretty well. That was primarily due to rainfall. We had normal rainfall of about 5.5 inches, but most of that occurred early in July. So as July moved along, the river flow dropped, flows kind of fell off in the river, but we did see our pumpage increase because at the same time, if you remember, temperature spiked and we started seeing the 90-degree weathers. Other than that, everything is doing well out at the plant. We appreciate Brian's guys. Every year they come out and help us clean out our sludge lagoons and give us a little more room down there to operate. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
And maybe Julie, I don't know if you're the right one or who's the right one to ask. With us operating with just 1 reservoir, 1 tank, is all that going smoothly?
Yes, on our end it is. In a way, we're a little grateful for the lower demand out in the system right now. We haven't had to work a lot of overtime, and we've got a real good pattern and working relationship with the distribution guys on the tanks. And so far, knock on wood, we're doing well.
Okay.
So now I'll give a reservoir construction update. We had just a week ago today, we had our 3rd progress meeting. We've received our 3rd pay request. We're working on reviewing some of the pay estimate quantities. As most of you know, the base slab was poured on the morning of July the 29th. That went really well. If you've been by the site lately, you'll notice the direction of the work platforms is ongoing. Upcoming work will be the tank wall construction. Contractor indicates he's still on schedule. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The base was all had to be a continuous pour?
That's
correct. Can they pour the walls and that in sections? Is that how? Is it poured in sections, or is that a continuous pour?
The walls will be sprayed on.
Okay.
The roof will be a pour, but the walls will be sprayed on.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the roof will also be a continuous pour.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry, Catherine.
I just had a question about generally how are the neighbors doing? Do we have any issues?
I actually got a call from one of the neighbors the other day, very complimentary of the actions that's been going on in the contractor. So I was very happy with that.
Great. Thank you.
You heard anything, Dawn, from the neighborhood association?
No, I haven't. As far as I know, everyone was happy with the night, action that took place. I haven't heard any complaints.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if that answers your questions on the my side of it, I'll turn it over to David Denton, and he'll work with customer service and the knock, et cetera.
Okay.
Mr. Cubine, we're going to have April Rhodes, our customer service supervisor, cover customer service. Then we'll have Kathy Lindsay cover our communications out and about, and then we'll move to Darren Rambo with the knock. So April.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. The customer service reports can be found on page 185 through 188. As David mentioned earlier, he was almost right on as to how much we had received from Healthy at Home. We're right now at about $227.5 thousand in assistance that we've received from that fund that's benefited 140 customers. So since last month, I think last month when Cassie had given you all the report, we were at about 120. So we've nearly doubled that Healthy at Home money, as well as helped almost twice as many customers. I think they're starting to get through that backlog. I know we were getting 3 or 4 a week, and I think the other day we had like 18 in a week. So it's definitely helping a lot of our customers. We also still have the people signing up for EBB, the emergency broadband benefit. Right now we're sitting at about 298 people who have applied. I think we got 222 in July, and then we had 76 that have signed up so far in August. So that's also a great benefit to our customers as well. If you have any questions about the reports, like I said, they do start on page 185, and I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Did you see any kind of spike or surge in people once the kids went back into school?
As far as
people on the EBB program.
Like I said, we had 222 in July. So we had, I think a lot of people probably were just waiting for us to get signed up. And so we had a mad rush then. I don't know that we've had quite a few over the last week or two, but we definitely had more in the month of July than we are trending in August. So we're about at 76 for August that have applied.
Okay. Any questions for April? Okay, the next one. Are we going to talk about? Okay, Kathy.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to give a little update on where we are on some things. Since we just talked about EBB, we've been continuing to get out information about EBB. We've shared it with the schools, especially now that they're all back. And again, I will be going Thursday night to a back to school bash at 2nd Street, and I plan to take a bunch of flyers with me. But then we handed out flyers along with water bottles at National Night Out a couple of weeks ago. And then we'll be at the downtown concert next Friday, handing out water bottles and hand sanitizer. And I will also have some flyers with me that night as well, so that, we're just getting those in the hands of as many people as we can who may not have heard about it. But if you're watching, you don't know what EBB is, it's the emergency broadband benefits, and you have the chance to qualify for $50 off of your internet bill, courtesy of the federal government, if you meet certain requirements. And if you want more information about it, you can go to fpb.cc/EBB. Other things we've been working on, we worked with the city to produce several PSAs about an apprenticeship program that they are taking applications for. They're working with a company called Interact that does data analytics, and they want to teach people those skills. So it's a program the mayor wanted to have so that there's people in our community, if you're looking for a new career, a new skill, that you would have this opportunity to do that. So if you're watching and you're looking for a new career, if you're over 18, live in Frankfurt, and have a high school diploma or equivalent, go to interact.com and apply for this apprenticeship, because the deadline's coming up. It's August 20th is the deadline to apply for this training program. And once you go through the training program, there are some participants who will move on to paid apprenticeships. So that's exciting. And we were happy to work with the city on that and help them promote that. And we have commercials. We did commercials that are on television and on social media, and they put them on their website. So I feel like we did a good job in helping them promote that, because I've talked to Penny Peevler yesterday, and she said that they've had a good response to that. So another thing that we're working on with the city is they're interested in doing a program for the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So we are working with Penny on putting together a program that will pre-record with some interviews from some local people, and also from a retired firefighter in New York who was on the scene that day at the World Trade Center. And so we'll be pre-recording that and airing a small segment of it on around 10 on Friday, September 10th, and then we'll run the show on Saturday, September 11th, and probably multiple times over the weekend. So again, that's another project with the city that we're glad we could be a part of, because we think it's really important that we have local content, and then especially because it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We have our game of the week coming up. We have live sports again. The schools are back in, they're playing sports, and people are going to get to come and all of that stuff so far, knock on wood. And our Cable 10 crew has been working really hard to get schedules figured out and what the games they're going to be able to cover and all that. So the first game is this Friday, and it's Paris at Frankfurt High School, and that'll be at 7:30. Again, we've been working with all the different departments on promoting AMI, getting ready for next band, and we're just excited to be a part of everything. Yeah. And I'll take questions if anybody has any.
Anybody have any questions for Kathy?
I don't have any questions, but I'm going to add on the Interact opportunity. Not only does the city have a grant, but the Frankfurt Independent School Education Foundation also has a similar grant specifically for Frankfurt High graduates. So there's a couple different ways to qualify for that program and that training.
There are 6 or 7 position slots that are set aside specifically for Frankfurt High graduates.
Any other questions for Kathy? And next, what is the Darren Rambo, the NOC?
Yeah, good evening. Network Operations Center, everything's going well. No complaints there at all. Your network, the NOC report, I believe your report packet on page 205. And it looks like in July, we handled 3,438 phone calls. It's a little bit of a busy month. And did just shy of, 627 locates. And for the year, we're at 4,960 across the 3 utilities, 14,888. So the locating business is busy as usual. Some good news on that front. We have our new locator, or a new locator, starting, I believe, on the 30th of this month. So I hope there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe we get them in and trained up and turned loose. Then we can get our third person hired, and trained.
Did you have pretty good luck? Did you have pretty good luck, Darren, getting people to apply for that?
Not really. Quite honestly, no. It's such a specific field, and the positions do require some experience, so it's very hard. We had quite a few applicants, but very few that were actually met the minimum qualifications. And then the problem we have is when we find applicants, or we have people that apply, we can't compete with the private sector to get them here. It's just, there's a lot of built-in overtime there. Those guys work 60 hours a week. And even though the hourly rate is probably competitive, all that built-in overtime, and it's a lot of younger folks, so they don't mind working it. So it's a big it's a big hit. And, you know, the gentleman we hired has quite a bit of experience. I'm thinking like 10 or 15 years experience. So quite a bit of experience, was a supervisor, but took a tremendous pay cut to come here just for the, I think the long-term, he saw the long-term benefits and the stability, but it was a pretty significant pay cut. So that's going to be the uphill battle, you know, moving forward. It's just finding the right person.
Okay. You got that on the list, Michelle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of the departmental reports? If not, we'll move on to action items. Number 5.1, consider approval of income qualifying weatherization project agreement. This is what we talked about during the budget process, that we would turn over our energy audits and the related work and that work over to Bluegrass Community Action, since they already have a state agreement to do that work, and let them handle that for us. Travis, you want to update us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you kind of covered the gist of it there at the June board meeting. The board requested staff to work with Bluegrass Community Action to create an income qualifying weatherization project. So under the agreement presented this evening, Bluegrass Community Action will perform up to 25 home energy audits for FPB, and they'll also manage the applicant qualification and home improvement process. The average cost per dwelling for improvements will not exceed $2,000. So again, staff's prepared the attached agreement to share with Bluegrass Community Action Partnership if it meets the board's approval.
You feel pretty good about the agreement, Travis?
I do. I think it's definitely improvement moving forward from where we were just doing the audits before. Now we're actually, going to be able to offer the customers actual real measurable improvements to their homes. So Hans has reviewed it thoroughly. I think Hans has given us all good on it. So feel pretty good about it.
And does the agreement include the tracking and reporting that the board has been interested in, as far as feedback out to us in terms of what they're doing? Are people getting repairs, and are they benefiting from it?
It does. In the contract, I think it's stated they'll provide quarterly updates or as requested by the board. Okay. So we'll be getting those regular updates, or more frequently if needed.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the agreement for Travis? Okay. If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Next one is consider approval of professional service agreement between PCS Technology LLC and FPB for integration and programming associated with the water treatment plant SCADA system upgrade at a cost not to exceed $101,388. Julie?
Yes, sir. Thank you. PCS Technologies was requested, excuse me, to provide a scope of services as they have the personnel, experience, and the necessary certifications to provide the work. In addition, PCS has successfully performed work for Frankfurt Plant Board in the past, as well as other utilities. And I kind of wanted to step back a little bit. We use a lot of acronyms in the water business, if you haven't picked up on that. So SCADA simply stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So those are the main things that this plant-wide computer system does for us. It helps us control and monitor the plant and accumulates a lot of data that we use to make daily decisions on treatment, maintenance, water quality, etc. So this project is overall will help provide just routine upgrades on hardware and software that is very pertinent to the SCADA system. So the current budget does include $350,000 overall for the project. The contract was provided to the staff attorney for review, and the staff does recommend that the board approve the contract with PCS contingent upon receipt of the required certificate of insurance. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Julie?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Julie, this looks fine. Y'all kind of know what you're doing and you trust these guys. The amount of the contract is so much less than the budgeted amount. Is there a difference in the scope of the work, or what was the reason that the bid came in so much lower than the budgeted amount?
The scope of work is specifically for programming and integration. The rest of the money that is in the budget will be for hardware, software.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And have we bid that part yet, Julie, or will that happen next, or is that buying off the shelf hardware, or is that bid things that have to be bid?
Some of the software can come from the state government contracts, because it'll be things like workstations, laptops, servers, that kind of thing. Some of the other equipment is going to be very specific to the what the programming will require. But we will be gathering all of that information and bringing that back at a later date.
Okay. And you're not going to leave us till all this is done?
Until August. Wait a minute, you've extended it a little bit for me. I should be around until about April.
Do we have a motion on the approval? I'm sorry.
I just had one quick question,
Sure.
and it may not be relevant, but is security taken into consideration with what is going to be done here as far as making the systems?
Yes, we're working with our IT department, with Casey, and PCS Technologies is well ahead of the curve when it comes to what we need to do with security. So yes, anything that they feel like we need to do to improve, we will be doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the contract?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Next item is, screen went off. Consider approval of, let's see, item 5.3. Consider amending FPB's 401A plan document to disallow after-tax voluntary employee contributions to comply with Internal Revenue Code by unchecking box 11A and 32A in the plan document. Mr. Denton?
Yes, sir. This is a little housekeeping on our 401A plan. If you'll remember, we started this plan back in January of 2020. This is managed, offered through the Kentucky Deferred Compensation Authority and managed by Nationwide Financial Services. The document used to create this plan is a template for multiple types of plans. Nationwide gave me permission to throw them under the bus. We should have caught on box 11E and then translated that to box 32A. When we checked 32E, it said that employees would be able to offer voluntary contributions to the 401A, but the 401A is only allowed to hold the employer match. So this is just getting this correct to make sure the 401A is properly set up and the plan document's correct. So nothing will change. We've not had any issues with the plan. This is just getting our plan document correct with those two changes and shouldn't have any other issues.
Okay. And I misstated. I said 11A. It's 11E. Sorry.
Yes, sir. 11E and 32A. Those will be the only unboxed, unchecked boxes that will make it all right.
Any questions, David, on this?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. So, David, this essentially will be a pre-tax. It's like deferred comp with the state. It's pre-tax deferral from contribution from the employee, correct?
Yes, sir. This will allow, it's only available to our Tier 3, CERS Tier 3 employees to encourage them and allow them to have more retirement savings. And then FPB is the matching on that. The employer match from FPB is what will actually go in the 401A. The employee portion goes into either a 457 or a 401K.
Right. One other question. I remember when we talked about this. Have we seen an increase in participation in this since we've started to offer it, or is the number of folks that are getting into it still pretty much the same?
I have not noticed and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, I've not seen a large increase. Of course, most of the new employees that we hire will be Tier 3 employees. I think we had estimated by 2025, we'll have more Tier 3 employees at FPB than Tier 1 or 2. I know that we are making an effort when new employees come on to encourage that. And I will say, I think we could probably do more to encourage employees to sign up from the start. So.
Now, in state government, when they change the law in state government, when you get hired, you're automatically put in deferred comp, right?
I'm not sure if you are or not. I'm not sure.
I was
if you
thinking
are
they
or not.
changed the law and they have to go in with what, $5 a pay or $10 a pay, and then they can opt out if they want.
Yeah, I think so. You know, of course, I'm Tier 1, so I really don't care. So.
I didn't know if that applied to CERS or only to KERS.
I'm not sure. I can find out then.
Okay. Okay. On this one, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Approved. Next one. Harvey, it wouldn't be a meeting without you, buddy. Consider approval of Disney Media and Entertainment Networks NCTC affiliation agreements. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Cable Advisory Committee and staff recommend approval of the Disney Media and Entertainment Networks affiliation agreements. This is an NCTC agreement with a term retroactive to August 1st and goes through July 31st of 2025. It contains renewals of some pretty important networks on our cable lineup, including ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Classic, ACC Network, SCC Network, Disney, Freeform, FX, FXX, and Nat Geo on Classic Cable, as well as Disney XD, Disney Junior, ESPNU, ESPN News, FXM, and Nat Geo Wild on Preferred Cable. It also renews our rights to ABC Broadcast VOD and ESPN3. There are no additional launches required through the term of the agreement, but there is some added flexibility, which is that it allows for FPB to remove ESPN Classic from the channel lineup and save the associated license fees. Staff intends to remove the channel at the end of December, and we'll communicate that to customers in the coming months. The programming on ESPN Classic will continue to be available to customers via the ESPN app, but there'll be no associated license fees. I'm not good on predicting the future, but my guess is that ESPN Classic, as a traditional linear channel, is not long for this world on any system. Staff attorney has reviewed this agreement and it meets with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
So it goes without saying, this does not cause any rate increase.
So there will not be certainly any immediate rate increase from this renewal. All of the agreements that are signed and that include annual increases feed into the generally annual increase right after the first of the year that we do for cable TV.
Okay. Any questions of Harvey? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? If not, contract's approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 5.5, consider approving the creation of an interim safety director position. Michelle?
Good evening, board chair and members of the board. Staff asked the board to consider approving the creation of an interim safety director position for succession planning purposes in anticipation of the retirement of the current safety director in early 2022. The safety department is unique in that it is a 2-employee department that covers multiple lines of businesses and requires field presence in FPB's entire service territory, in addition to the administrative aspects of the job. To avoid having only one person to staff the department and to continue uninterrupted support to the departments and employees, staff feels that the creation of the interim director position will allow the qualified candidate to directly train with the current safety director so that the candidate will be able to smoothly transition into that role. Based on an evaluation of the job description, the recommended classification of the interim safety director is an exempt position with a grade 116. The minimum starting pay is $77,522. The impact on the 21-22 budget is estimated to be an increase of approximately $7,965. Upon completion of training, the interim safety director position will expire, and the individual in this position will make the transition to the safety director following the retirement of the current safety director. If approved, staff plans to post and fill the interim safety director immediately. The proposed job description is included in the detailed pages for the board item. Staff asks the board to approve the interim safety director position and approve a budget amendment in the amount of $8,000 for the additional compensation required. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
If we don't let Kim retire, we don't have to do this though, right?
Correct.
Yes. So I just wanted to point that out for the record, that we've got some say in this if we want to block that retirement, right? Does anybody?
Just go ahead and try.
Does anybody have any questions about the position or what we're doing here?
Yeah, John, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
The $8,000 covers this position. The additional money covers. I mean, this position wasn't anticipated in the budget, was the interim?
It was not. However, the difference, so from the minimum to what Kim pay currently is, the difference would be about $8,000.
So what's funding the position now? Because the interim's going to be working while Kim's working also. So what covers the position, you know, what covers that position while Kim's still working?
Michelle, I don't mind to jump in on that.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Mason, based on the plan that we lay out for the year, I can tell that we're already behind in what you plan on paper for payroll and what actually happens. We've got jobs that are open that haven't been filled. I feel pretty confident that there'll be sufficient funds there to cover this amount. And I definitely think as a whole, we'll be below our budgeted when we get a year from now looking at 22's actual results. So I think we're good with no budget minimum needed and probably funds available to cover it.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah. The second question is, you said you was going to open it and once you get someone to fill it immediately, I'm hoping that I know it's going to be advertised, but gives any outside people sufficient time to respond to an advertisement to perhaps apply for this job.
Oh, yes, sir. We will post it internally and externally, and we usually run it sometimes until filled or at least a week or so. But yes, we do. We'll run it both internally and externally.
Okay, thanks.
We're still continuing to show the policy the board adopted, wasn't it, last year, to post everything internally and externally?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. With that, does anybody have any further questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the interim safety position?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion, position's approved. Thanks, Nichelle. And Nichelle, this is, let's see, item 5.6. This is was on the agenda last month, and and board members had some comments, and staff was going to go back and take a look at it and make some adjustments. So this is back before us. So Nichelle, you want to talk a little about it?
Yes. As you had mentioned, staff presented the flex work policy at the June board meeting, and the board requested some revisions to the policy. So staff has made those revisions. If you have any questions, staff asked the board to consider approving the FPB flex work policy and consider amending section X, subsection B, compensation plan, and the guidelines governing the employment electric and water plant board. And you can see the details, and the policy is in the detail pages to also align with the FPB flex work policy. So a copy of the flex work policy, flex work agreement, flex work equipment form, and the revised guidelines are provided in the board package. If approved, the new policy will be incorporated into the internal policies and provided to all employees. Does the board have any? I'm sorry.
Have you gotten much interest in going with this?
We are working on the taxation, so in partnership with Kronos to make sure that we have the taxation that, as you requested, would be correct. So we have not reached out to employees yet until we can make sure that our payroll system is able to accommodate the different counties and cities and taxation.
Okay. Do we have any questions of Michelle, or any questions about the changes that were made from the last meeting?
No, Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Mason. I was just going to comment. I appreciate the clarification or revision in that subsection XB to clarify that it's the supervisor that would be basically approving these changes.
Steve?
I guess my first question is, I know that the traditional people that would be eligible for these jobs would be people who work in an office setting for the most part. But I'm thinking about the people in the field like a lineman. And I know, generally speaking, that those positions don't lend itself to that. But I'm thinking of the scenario where a lineman perhaps is having to stay home for whatever reason, and that person is the most experienced in a complex job that's going on site. So will there be exceptions or perhaps times when those traditional positions that would not normally be subject to flex be able to utilize it in times when their expertise is actually needed on the job right at the moment, but they are not able to be at the job for whatever reason?
Currently, right now, the managers or the supervisors have the option to opt out. So when we did a survey, most of our field positions, managers decided to opt out. As you mentioned, a line worker is just not able to work from home. However, you asked if there could be any exceptions made. So during the pandemic, there was rotation where the shifts and the crews rotated out weekly, just to make sure that we could keep our workforce safe and make some distance between our crews. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Second question is, who monitors the granting of the flex? I know the supervisors grant are the ones that approve the flex time schedule, but who, I guess I assume you are monitoring the overall to make sure that it's all seems to be within the guidelines and everything is looking right.
Most of the responsibility will be placed on the managers because they would have direct contact with their employees. So they may develop either meeting points or, check throughout the day. So it's up to the management or the manager to oversee to make sure that their employees is actually working, logging in, attending meetings, things of that nature.
Yeah. And my last question is, I guess, is maybe a legal one. How does this challenge workers' compensation, potential workers' compensation challenges by the plant board? And I'm asking that of Hans, really, more, because someone is at home and if they have a workers' compensation issue, a workers' comp issue, and you wanted to challenge it, it's easy to challenge it as an employer inside when they're working at the work site versus working. And I think I'm asking that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure.
I think I understand your hypothetical. Something like what could come up today with somebody maybe injures their back working in the yard and then comes to work and says, "Oh, I
didn't say it wasn't legitimate, but you could go there.
Hurt my back at work." That could always happen. I know Kim had talked to some folks at Kimi and said that they have a good bit of their workforce at home, and it really hasn't been a hasn't been too much of an issue with Kimi, with actual workers' comp carrier. So I think it's pretty, it would be defended just like any other workers' comp case. You'd see, is it related to the workplace and so on, and what were they, if the person's out cutting their grass during the workday, it's probably not going to be work related, not going to be compensable. But I'll let Kim jump in there. I see her down there in the bottom corner of the screen. See what she has to add.
Really, I just have the same. I did talk to Kimi. They have people working from home. They've addressed it, and they haven't made anything out of the ordinary, even with their own workforce. So I think it hasn't been a huge problem from the workers' comp.
It's a fairly new issue, really. Obviously, we haven't been doing this much, so I know it's not something that's been fully fleshed out, but I just think it's something that needs to be thought about in advance, because there is room for exploitation. It gets back whomever it might be.
Well, we talked a little last month about it. I can see a situation where somebody's working at home, and I know in one of the agreements, Michelle, that employee signs is that their workplace is safe and meets certain standards and all that. But a person can get up and say, I got up and I tripped over an extension cord in my, where my computer and everything's set up. And because they had an extension cord across the middle of the office, are we liable for that, or are they? If it had been at work, we would have made sure there wasn't a cord there in the hallway or whatever. They're going to be responsible to make sure their workplace is safe to do the work, won't they?
Yes, and they would have to sign a flex work agreement, and it has a safety checklist, and it lists certain things like workplaces away from noise distractions, and well ventilated, floors are clear and free from hazard, desk, chair, computer, and other equipment are of appropriate design and range to eliminate strain on all parts of the body. So that is included in the flex work agreement. As far as how it would hold up in the event something, if an employee, like you said, was to trip over an extension cord, that is not my expertise. I would have to ask Hans. But we do have something that the employee does need to sign in order to be eligible and approved for the flex work.
Let me just jump in here. Today, you all skipped over my safety report, by the way.
Oh.
But there was we had a case this past month where an employee was walking from one building to the other and tripped on the pavement, fell down and bruised her knee and is on restricted duty. There's risks wherever you're working from. There's going to be risks. Could people take advantage of this? Yes, but there's opportunities for people to take advantage of that at the workplace too. I mean, if they're coming into work. So it's a matter of risk management. I think there's probably lesser hazards. The loss control, my loss control contact at KY or at Kimi, he said what he's found is people look at this as kind of a privilege and they don't want to rock the boat too much. So they haven't found anybody exploiting it. But like you said, it's kind of new. I mean, so it'll have to be fleshed out as we go forward, no doubt.
Okay. Any other questions of Michelle or anything else in regard to adopting the policy?
I just have a comment. I just want to thank Michelle for the changes that were made. I think it's a much better policy now than it was before, so I appreciate the work that you all did on it.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Not seeing any further discussion. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Adopted. And if I could digress for a minute, Kim, I want to apologize to you. And could you give us a quick update on safety?
Oh, no, now I skipped over my page. For two OSHA recordable accidents. One, someone fell on flat pavement and hurt their contused their knee going from one building to another. The other one, a stockroom employee was pulling or pushing a reel of cable and had a muscle strain there. We had two relatively minor vehicle accidents. One meter reading truck slid into a pole, and then the other one was minor too, but okay. I don't have the. But okay. No, so. Yeah.
I apologize for skipping over you.
That's okay. Don't have that many.
Next item is 5.7. Consider approval of COVID-19 additional paid sick leave effective July 1st, 2021. Michelle?
Yes. With the increase in the local COVID-19 cases, staff asked the board to reinstate additional paid sick leave with the effective date of July 1st, 2021. The APSL provides up to 80 hours of paid time off for employees' absence related to COVID-19. Employees requesting APSL for their own COVID-related health condition or requirement to quarantine receive 100% of their hourly pay. Because FPB is a municipal utility and part of the critical infrastructure, the general manager may deny requests for time off if it would compromise our ability to deliver essential services. If approved, eligible full-time employees will start with a new balance of 80 hours effective July 1st, 2021. Does the board have any questions?
Any questions of Michelle? Okay, all those, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Approved. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
The next one is, this is a situation that all we need to do today, if the board concurs, is we've got several trademarks, our FPB logo, our Next Band, our Frankfurt on Tap, is to register those trademarks with the Secretary of State. And then Hans has a draft agreement for us to approve. And then if there's any agreements to review or adopt, that could be done at a future meeting. But the meeting today is do we want to proceed with registering those? And Hans has done some review on it and approved the agreement to allow, if someone wanted to use our logo for some purpose, for that to be brought to the board and us determine if in fact we want to approve it. So Hans or Kathy, you want to talk about it?
Yes, sir. I'll give a little report. I had sent to the board on August the 9th some research I had done about trademarks, and we get rights in our various marks by the use of them alone. We don't have to have our marks registered with either the Secretary of State or the federal office. Our use constitutes ownership. And as Mr. Cubine mentioned, we have three marks: the FPB, the Frankfurt on Tap, and the Next Band. I thought of one more this afternoon with our former Lemon logos, the little stick figure with the lightning bolts for arms. I think that's maybe on some of the older letterhead floating around here. So I'd probably register that one too, and any marks that Harvey and Kathy can think of from the cable side of things. But the agreement is the draft agreement for the board's consideration is sort of several I've looked at from various cities and so forth that had licensed their marks, and some of the practice notes I reviewed to come up with that agreement. The blank exhibit in the back of it, I had one question this afternoon where it says Exhibit A, licensed marks. If the board approves the agreement, what the agreement will do there is, say if someone wants to license the FPB logo or the old stick figure logo, we would put pictures of those on the Exhibit A showing what marks are licensed. And then Exhibit B is for the purpose of the license. The business that the board is considering licensing the mark to would fill out that little form, the purpose of the license. Here's the products that's going to be affixed to, and then at the bottom of that list, there are bottom of that exhibit B are some various factors the board can consider in whether to grant a license or not. And you can change those factors as the board sees fit, depending on if you want me to edit those, add, take out, whatever the board's preference might be. So I'll let Kathy jump in there, but I think Mr. Cubine hit the nail on the head tonight. Basically, the only two things we need are to approve the use of the agreement as a template first, and then move to authorize staff to file any necessary paperwork with the Kentucky Secretary of State to register the marks. Had a question about that this afternoon. The Secretary of State takes about 5 to 10 business days for the registration, and it's $10 per mark. So we'd probably be looking at about $100 maybe to register all of our marks. So I'll let Kathy take it away. See if she's got any marketing creative stuff out there that needs to be trademarked here.
I think you covered everything that we had talked about. We've got our next band, Frankfurt on Tap, the swirl, and the lemon.
The stick figure guy. Okay, yeah. Very good.
But no, I do really appreciate all the work that Hans has done on this, because I had looked into it when we did Frankfurt on Tap, and yeah, trademark law is just it's way over my head. So I appreciate all the work that Hans put into it, and I just wanted to say thanks.
The only caveat I can think of as far as Secretary of State versus the federal licensing is you get more regional protection with the Secretary of State, which I think would be suitable for us since we're a regional local company. Whereas with the U.S. registration, you have more nationwide protection. But that's the only thing I can think of that the board might want to consider. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Hans or Kathy?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
yes, sir.
I want to thank Hans and Kathy for working on this. Situation was brought to some of the board members' attention, and one of the things I talked with Hans about when it first came out was, these marks are ours, and we want to make sure that if we don't actively kind of enforce our use of them, our ability to use them could be degraded a little bit. I think Hans agreed with me on that, and I think it's appropriate to do, and sort of appreciate the work you put in on putting together the form, and I think it's excellent. And I think it's the same thing we're going to make any money off of, but it just protects our trademark and make sure that if somebody wants to use our trademark, they're using it appropriately and to the benefit to our organization. So it's in order. I know you got people might want to talk. If it's in order, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this form and direct staff to make all necessary procedures to trademark or to register our logos with the Secretary of State.
And I might just add, I think one of the important things here is FPB. I think we all feel FPB has a good reputation here in the community. And if somebody displays FPB, we want the public to know it really is us and not somebody trying to use our name.
Yep.
And that we're not really behind it. So I appreciate that, John.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'm
sorry.
second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Approved. Proceed on, Mr. Price. Thank you, sir. Next one is consider approving 5.9, a resolution of Electric and Water Plant Board of the City of Frankfurt in regards to environmentally responsible energy and its increased inclusion in our power supply. Ms. Mitchell, you want to take that one?
Sure. So as the title implies, we think it's important through the use of resolutions to send a clear message to not only to KYMEA, but also directive to our representative to KYMEA concerning our expectations on our renewable energy portion of our portfolio, and to continue to push that forward. This is good timing prior to KYMEA's strategic planning retreat in September. And so this resolution, and I appreciate the staff's work on this, includes some whereases. And I will point out one of them, which is that the Plant Board and the KYMEA have demonstrated leadership in their commitment to non-carbon and renewable energy resources with the inclusion of SEPA hydropower and the Ashwood Solar Project. So as drafted, this resolution resolves to instruct the Plant Board KYMEA representative that in matters before the KYMEA Board of Directors, the Plant Board representative shall, where reasonably possible, encourage KYMEA to advocate for actions to increase renewable energy to the fullest extent feasible while maintaining reliable power, competitive rates, and minimizing rate volatility. This resolution would also instruct the Plant Board KYMEA representative that in matters before the KYMEA Board of Directors, the Plant Board representative shall encourage KYMEA to explore, research, and pursue all reasonable and cost-effective technologies to reduce energy usage and improve system efficiencies. The resolution requests of KYMEA to encourage KYMEA to consider actions to utilize renewables to the fullest extent feasible while maintaining reliable power, competitive rates, and minimizing rate volatility. And finally, the effective date of this resolution would take effect on from and after its passage and approval.
And Catherine, I appreciate your work on this, and Vince and Gary, I know you all have done a lot of work on it. I think this is, from everything I understand, is consistent with where we're trying to get to, with what's already going on and where we want KEME to go in the future. So I think everybody's had a chance to look at it. Does anyone have any questions of Vince, Gary, or Catherine?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Catherine for and everybody for working on this. I also think it's important that while we want to do renewables, we want to do renewables at the right price, and we want to make sure that, you know, we still have the stable, reliable power supply. And I just want to thank her for taking the lead in this. And I, you know, will second, if she wants to make the motion, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Resolution's adopted. Thanks, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Next one is this. I'd hope we wouldn't have to deal with this again, but unfortunately, circumstances are this would basically, we did this once before, and this is kind of reinstituting, giving Gary some authorities in terms of responding to COVID as it's changing, and unfortunately, it changes almost daily in terms of what has to be done and protecting staff, protecting customers, and giving him that authority that we previously granted him, and, you know, him making us aware of what he's doing, but that he needs to be able to make decisions based on health department, CDC, state guidelines, whatever, and giving him that authority to act as he needs to keep the operation going. So does anybody have any questions, concerns, anything they want to change or add?
John, this is essentially the same initiative we passed last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd make a motion to adopt it.
Okay. And Gary didn't, you know, as far as I know, he didn't wreck anything or anything last time. I think he did okay. Didn't you, Gary?
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure, let you know, before I jump in to make any decision deviate away from a current policy, I will make sure you know that first. This is just try to avoid a call emergency meeting if we have to. Currently, we are good shape. I mean, we do have some employees somehow direct or indirect affected by COVID-19 currently. And we work really hard to try to protect our employee, their safety and our customer safety. Just like we mentioned here, we started separate crews. We request indoor mask, right now for our building. And also we continue the drive-through for customer. And also our lobby is open, but based on the condition, if the customer can like a drive in, make a contact with us, then we try to resolve everything we can through the phone. And then if it's not, we have employee work out of the door to open the door for customer. So all the measurement we try to put in place is to try to say, what we can do, hoping a couple of weeks we have a better condition than today.
What about in-home installations like on cable and so forth?
We are doing similar. We still available. Adam can correct me. We are still available for customer if they choose on phone to try to resolve their technical issue. But I do want to be honest with you. Last year we tried, based on what I know, sometimes a customer is very frustrated and it is not a very effective try to help the customer. Adam, you can tell me. Yes.
I mean, we're trying to, do our best, and we're trying to social distance. So if the customer don't have to be right there beside us, we're trying to practice social distancing, wearing gloves and masks and things of that nature.
Okay.
And then we're doing our pre-COVID screening as far as when we go to the house, making sure that, we kind of question the customer if, if they've been in contact or if they're positive or anything like that.
Okay. Any other questions of Adam or Gary? If not, if everybody's okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Gary, you've got it again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 6, this was from last month. We held this over because Michelle had been asked to do this. And since she wasn't able to be with us last month, for her to be able to present it, she'd done work on it. So Michelle, you want to handle item 6.1?
Yes. I need to share my screen. So David, I believe I need permission to share my screen. Go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. Give me a second. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. At April's board meeting, the board requested a report on staff recruitment efforts. So I have created a brief presentation to highlight staff current and future recruitment sources. So let me. FPB is dedicated to finding qualified employees and ensuring a diverse and inclusive workplace, finding powerful employees to strengthen our workforce and show leadership in our community, recruiting and retaining bright employees to shine and represent FPB's energy. Staff goal is finding powerful and bright employees to shine at Frankfort Plant Board. Our current recruitment sources are Frankfort Plant Board website and Cable 10, various social media sites, Sunday edition of the local newspaper, Kentucky Office of Employment and Training, various local churches and organizations. So staff sends emails of our postings to the different churches and organizations, as well as we send emails to associations or posts on APPA and AWWA as examples. We also send postings and participate in Handshake for universities that are not limited or listed. The University of Kentucky, Kentucky State, University of Louisville. Some of our future recruitment sources is staff goal is to expand recruitment to fill available pools of talent by. Prior to the pandemic, staff attended universities, colleges, and job fairs. This allowed staff to personally interact with potential applicants and highlight that FPB is a great place to have a career. Staff plans to attend those events once normal in-person events resume. Expanding digital presence. In addition to advertising on FPB's job posting on FPB's website, staff will appear on FPB's Cable 10 to promote recruitment and highlight FPB is a welcoming and inclusive place to work. Analysis of job descriptions. Studies show better written job descriptions and advertisements leads to hiring better employees. Using the correct language in our job descriptions can attract a broader range of applicants. Participate in additional HR recruitment training. Staff plans to enroll in SHRM Foundation Veterans at Work Certificate Program. The program offers a 10-hour free course with subject matter to equip recruiters with the knowledge and tools necessary to attract, hire, and retain both veterans and members of the military community. Offering a flex work schedule for eligible positions. The last year has highlighted the ability of some positions to perform work remotely. With tonight's approval of the flex work policy, FPB will offer a flex work schedule to support work-life balance. Focus on local graduates and promote FPB scholarship opportunities. Encourage local high school students and graduates that already have ties to the Frankfort community to attend Lyman School, and also to promote co-op opportunities for local universities and colleges. Why a career at FPB in public power? The city of Frankfort offers a lower cost of living with access to 3 major cities. So by working here at Frankfort Plant Board, you will have access to those local cities. FPB also offers a stable career. Competitive retirement plan offering a matching option for Kentucky Retirement Tier 3. Competitive wages and career opportunities, health benefits, tuition reimbursement, flexible work schedules, and 12.5 paid vacation, sick, and holidays. Conclusion. Staff hopes that the steps identified here will increase the pool of applicants. Ultimately, a broader applicant pool should lead to a workforce with a wider range of perspectives and ideals that can be used to serve our customers and the community. Does the board have any questions?
Michelle, what percent of our workers, our employees that apply or that work for us are non-Franklin County residents?
I don't have those statistics right now, but I can get that and email that to the board.
What I was wondering is when we're advertising, we talk about State Journal and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get many applicants who are commuting to work here from Louisville or Lexington or Woodford County or Owen or? Well, I was just looking at we were talking, and I think you all do a great job in terms of the newspapers, all those type things. But do applicants that we're trying to reach, are they not seeing that because we're recruiting out, say, Fayette County? I mean, do we need to expand advertising into those counties, or I'm just kind of wondering?
As far as local papers, we only do that as needed, but we do place our job posting on Indeed. So that collects a broad range.
Okay.
Once again, depending on the position, we have advertised on LinkedIn. So we do advertise on sites that, are global. But as far as the local newspapers, we may advertise in Lexington, Courier, I believe, and sometimes Louisville, but mainly the State Journal.
Yeah, I mean, I just wondered, I don't even know how many people get look for job openings in the newspaper anymore compared to, like you said, Indeed or some of those others. I mean, all that's changed. I mean, so.
We also plan, like I said, to increase our digital presence. So Channel 10, currently we advertise on Facebook. I would like to start advertising on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Okay. What other questions do we have for Nichelle?
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Nichelle, what's the acronym SHRM?
Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM. So it is the society, it is the professional Society for Human Resource Management, like the, I can't think of, the professional group for human resources.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I like that bullet point, you know, to learn how everybody else is approaching expanding diversity through recruitment, and it's never good to try and reinvent the wheel, so I might as well learn through some training. So I assume that's what that was about, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I agree with Mr. Cubine about thinking about expanding advertising. I do agree that probably, you know, online recruitment sites are the current thing. I'm also wondering about, I mean, we have the Great College on the Hill here, but there's other HBCs about expanding to those as well.
So we currently use what is called Handshake, and that is what the colleges use. They we post our positions on Handshake, and then the colleges, they do have to go out and approve the position for their students to see it. So although we may post our job advertisement, it's up to the universities to also go out there, research, and collect our posting. It could be different reasons why they may not offer the posting to their students, such as the years of experience, or just not a fit for that area. But we do utilize Handshake.
Great. Okay. And I appreciate your work on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nichelle?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've got one. Yes, Nichelle, you talked briefly here about scholarship opportunities. You talked about how much does it cost for someone to go through lineman school? Any idea?
It was about $4,200. I wasn't involved previously. I believe the last director researched offering a scholarship, and I think the board may have chosen just to offer a general scholarship, which we do now. They didn't want to be specific, but at some point I was going to approach the board to maybe reconsider that, in addition to the scholarship that we currently offer, to maybe offer a scholarship to lineman school.
Well, you know, I know, for example, you know, Transportation Cabinet, I know does something with engineers where, you know, they'll pay for college tuition, and then you agree to work for them for a certain amount of time. So, you know, I don't know if maybe we could do something like that where, you know, we could get at least 2 or 3 years out of somebody. I don't know, 4,200. It was a little less than maybe I thought it was going to be, but you know, that might be something we want to explore. More of a targeted kind of a thing to get at a need that we absolutely have, and you know, we're always looking for good linemen. So, you know, that might be something we want to think about. I think that's a very interesting notion you put down there.
Yeah,
Michelle, you want to do some work on that and bring that back to the board in September on the linemen?
Yes, because I really think that would be beneficial. If we could recruit right here from Frankfort, like I said, they have ties here. They would be, you know, it's more of an incentive to stay at Frankfort Plant Board.
Maybe more likely to stay, yeah.
Yep, their family is here. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned co-ops. Do we have co-op students from like KSU or the high schools currently?
No, currently right now we do not have a co-op program. We just use seasonal employees, and it is dependent upon the need of the department. But I would like to start a co-op program as well.
So you want to bring that back in September also? You keep bringing stuff up. You're going to become Harvey Couch, and you're going to have the whole agenda.
I'll see what I can research and find out there.
One of the things, I'm not sure if Kentucky State does it anymore. One of the things we did up there was the work study students, where we tried to get them downtown in city government, and where they worked there, but the city didn't have to pay for them because we kind of used the work study money, as that payment. So it connected them with Frankfurt, and it didn't cost Frankfurt anything to have hired help, if you will. So that's something you might explore with K-State if they can allow some, screen work study students to work at the plant board on work study money. And you just have the free, in a sense, of free labor, but you're giving an education, thing to them. So,
thank you,
Michelle. I might suggest that since Mr. Mason is a former high-ranking official at KSU, you might enlist his help to do some work for you on this.
Okay.
I will find that out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions? If not, we don't have to take any action on this. Michelle, thank you for your work on this, and we look forward to hearing from you in September.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next one is informational items. General Manager, you have some items for us?
I don't. I just want to have a perfect chance to reinstate the EBB program. I always wonder, there are many customers really don't know they are qualified. I just want to try to make it clear, all the parents who have children in Frankfurt Independent School, they are qualified. And also all the parents in all the elementary middle school of our Franklin County School District, they also qualify. So we currently only have less than 300 customers. The base, the customer really qualifies, is far bigger than that.
Yes.
I definitely understand that the customer individually choose to say, I'm qualified, but I'm not going to apply that. But I certainly like to encourage people to try it. It's a great benefit to our local.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We don't have it on here, but I think Hans, do we have any old or new business to address?
I just had one thing. I just wanted to thank David Denton for the work he did with the city and county schools with the water fountains. He did great work on getting that done so quickly and efficiently, and just wanted to thank him for that.
Mr. Denton does pretty good work,
Thank you very much, Sale. Thank you.
Next time it'd be a new item on
Chairman,
here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, if I can take just a minute or two,
Sure.
Just want to report back to the board. At your request, I attended the annual meeting of the Kentucky Municipal Utilities Association down at Lake Barkley, down at the 22nd or so of July, and it was very, very interesting. I sat in on the telecommunications committee with Adam Hellard and his crew and some of his crew, and I sat in as well on the board meeting as well. Heard from a gentleman with the American Public Power Association talking about some of the challenges facing some of the municipal utilities. I came away really impressed.
Good.
I really this is a lot like working for the this job these guys have is a lot like working for the legislature. It's kind of a niche job. Not everybody faces the same kind of challenges they do. And a lot of times the greatest benefit of a group like this is being able to just get together in a room and bounce ideas off one another. Know who to call if you're faced with a problem. We're unique in that we've got everything, water, cable, or water, telecom, and electric. There's a lot of folks there that are just water systems or just run electric or something like that. But I came away very impressed. I spoke with Annette at length. You know, we're still going to have a kind of a meeting of the minds about, you know, how they do some of their legislative stuff and how they kind of communicate with us. I let her know some thoughts. We're going to talk some more in the future, and I just want to let you know that I came away very impressed by the folks there, and I thought it was a very, very good meeting. I just want to thank you for asking me to attend, and I just want to
thanks for taking time out of your schedule to go too.
Appreciate that.
Hans, do you want to read the motion for us to go into closed session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'd ask the board to move to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61-810-1C to discuss a proposed OSHA matter.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. We're going into closed session. David, Columbia, please tell us as soon as we're clear, okay? Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Anybody have any
Mr.
further
Chairman?
discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to direct the board attorney, the staff attorney to proceed as directed from the instructions given to him in the closed session.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.